As you can see, I'm Lisa Oxenhandler, and I am HR partner for Ideal Workplaces. How many of you, I'm learning this thing, sorry. There we go. How many of you remember using one of these to find your staff or to find a job or to just find anything? That used car? No. Essentially, when you place an ad on a job board or use social media, or if you are posting your job on your website, that's essentially what you're doing. You just don't know who's going to be replying to those positions. I think I'm going the right way. That's the reason that you need to develop a plan. It is a system. It's a process that should be on the top of your mind at all times. You never know when you might be adding somebody or replacing somebody, and that way you aren't caught off guard. It does, and I'll go into more of this, but you plan, define, search, build your pipeline, screen, and interview and hire. Some of those are done all of the time. Who can relate to this little fella? As a small business owner, you wear many hats, and some of those hats roll over from business to, yikes, to home. So you might have a hat that says parent, you might have a hat that says business owner, professional, sales, IT, HR. When do you put on your HR hat to manage your people skills? Juggle, juggle. Okay, so I'm going to tell you probably the easiest way to relate to good and bad and way to do it and way you probably don't want to do it is about two people. The story about Who Lost is really fast and easy. When Who Lost was notified that they were going to be losing a person, they just, and Who Won, sorry. They scrambled and used the hair on fire method. They just ran around trying to find the right person and just oftentimes ended up with egg on their face because they didn't have a 7-point system that they could use over and over to use Bill Purnet's, that he seems to be the common thread in the topics, a rinse and repeat system. Who Won, however, is another story. Who Won followed the 7-point system. They would plan any sort of growth. They defined what they really needed on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis, the salary, all those kinds of things. And I will be handing out a tool at the end of the presentation so that you can have a takeaway and be reminded of the things that you need to do. So in planning, is this a growth position? Is this a replacement position? And then you're defining, be as articulate as you can about what you're looking for. But the search process is what you really, really need to be creative about and just a constant 24-hour thing. Talk to everybody that you know. When you're in a meeting at E4E, who do you know who's looking for a new job? This is what I'm looking for. When you're at church, mention it. When you're at your kid's school event, mention that you're looking for somebody so that you can be building your pipeline. You always want to have somebody that you can go to if you're looking for a person. Then you can screen, you'll have multiple people to choose from and screen those down to 1 or 2 people that you want to talk with. You'll actually interview them and let the person know along the way what the interview process is. If there's going to be multiple interviews, let them know that up front. If there are going to be drug tests, background checks, any of those kinds of things, let them know that up front. That way there aren't any surprises. And then you can hire and have that happily ever after story. Who has questions? Dale?
Yeah, Lisa, you said in the plan stage. You said in the plan stage, ask whether or not it's a replacement position or a growth position. Can you share with us what difference that makes in your approach?
Absolutely. If it's a growth position, oftentimes you have a little bit of time, or you can take your time in finding the right person. Sometimes if it's a replacement person, you're going to be doing that person's job if they should be leaving before you find their replacement. So you're doing their job, you're doing your job, you're searching. It's just more hats to be wearing. So to have your pipeline ready to go to and see if there's anybody that might be a fit makes it easier. Les? Oh.
So the interview process is infamous for having people show up and doing great interviews and being poor performers. How do you make sure that in the interview process you're really doing the kind of job that will result in the kind of people that are going to perform well on that job?
There are many ways to do that. One of the ways you might consider is an assessment. There are a ton of assessments out there that will tell about the person's personality, their skill level, all those kinds of things. One of the things that I also recommend you do is have the person come in and shadow for a day or two. See if they're going to be a culture fit. Because culture fit is important to a person's success in the position as the skills. Skills can often be learned. Sometimes you have to have, certain criteria, but skills can be learned. The culture fit is yes it is or no it isn't oftentimes.
Lisa, are there one or two things that you see people doing that they need to improve on that kind of stand out? If where you see these trends where they tend to make the same mistakes over and over, are there a handful of things that kind of stand out to you?
One thing is, and as a third-party recruiter, I would never have said this out loud to you, but it's to hire too quickly. If you have a doubt about the person, listen to your instinct. There's a reason that you have that doubt. Again, going back to skills, you can test them on the skills. You can see if they're going to be a good fit with regard to that. But have multiple people talk to the person that you're considering. See how they feel. Get their feedback. Don't just make an instant decision because you like the way they part their hair. As a third-party recruiter, I would not have liked me to say that.
Lisa, what is a third-party recruiter and why should I consider hiring one?
Good question. And let me explain third-party recruiter versus HR partner, which I am now. HR partner becomes an extension of you and your company. They have your best interest in heart because they're there for the long haul. They want to see you success. They want to see your company grow. As a third-party recruiter, which I still do sometimes, I'm there just for the project. And you're going to pay me once you hire that person. And generally speaking, that's based upon a person's first year salary. So, that explain it? Okay.
More questions?
Hi, Lisa.
Hi.
Hi. Do you have a communication process set up for dealing with your interviewees so that they know what's going on as the process continues? Oftentimes an interview occurs, the interviewee goes home and it never hears progress report, even though they may be told there will be some. It's also an impression on the company. In other words, the interviewee is interviewing the company also. And maybe they don't want to go to somebody that won't communicate, even though it might be a fine company.
Absolutely. I think in the search, anytime that someone gets even just a resume, sending out a thank you note, if it's an email, handwritten thank you note, we're not hiring, we are hiring, thanks for applying, but you're not a fit, please stay in touch. Yes, and if you hire me as an HR partner, I'll tell you more. No, but yeah, communication is key no matter what the role.
Any more questions? All right.
I'm not finished.
All right, we'll take it away. Take it away.
I have one more story to tell about who won.
I can't wait.
Shortly after she hired that, live happily ever after person, she had one of her old top talent people leave. They were moving to another city. So rather than having to do the whole thing all over again, she immediately went to her pipeline to see if there was a good fit. And then she also reached out to other people so that she would be adding more to her pipeline. She screened, she interviewed, and she hired, and happily ever after came again. Thanks.